Part 1, An Abridged History of Campaigning.
The first two elections had little to be talked about as George Washington won with 100% of the vote. The 1796 and 1800 elections between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson started the American presidential campaign slugfest. Neither Adams nor Jefferson personally campaigned. Rather, the campaign battles were waged between the political party newspapers, a propaganda device rooted in the anti-British pamphlets of the American Revolution. These publications mercilessly criticized their respective opposing candidates through endless hate ads and style publishing. Attacks made on Jefferson, saying that he had no God and who could elect a godless president. Attack ads on Adams suggested that he was a British sympathizer. Newspapers and these campaign hate ads are still very much alive and well today. Newspapers were and remain a valuable source to inform and persuade the populace in political campaigns. For more than a century, trains and presidential campaigns have gone hand in hand. As the railroad started to sweep the nation in the 1800s, politicians found it a proper way to get their word out and have greater contact with voters. William Harrison was the first presidential candidate to campaign aboard a train in 1836. Politicians could travel the country by rail without having to touch the ground. People would gather around train stations to hear the candidates deliver their speeches as if they were watching a main event prize fight. One of the most famous presidential railroaders was probably Harry S. Truman. During his 1948 Whistle Stop tour, Truman traveled more than 31,000 miles and delivered 356 speeches. Advancements in technology allowed the human voice to be recorded on wax cylinders. It became a valuable political tool in the early 1900s. The 1908 presidential race between Republican William H. Taft and Democrat William Bryan marked the first time recorded speeches were purposely used to expand the speaker's audience to those not in attendance. When the radio came along in the 1920s, radio broadcasts and commercials ushered in a new style of campaigning that reached a much more broad audience. Radio became a favored means of campaigning, and although the candidates still liked to travel by train as a sort of press the flesh and be seen by people strategy, they realized that they could reach many more people by radio.
Part 2, Television and Campaigning. In focus groups, people say they don't like negative ads, but when the ads come over their airwaves, they seem to succeed in worsening voters' impression of their target.
In the 1950s, a new medium for political coverage began to appear in the living rooms of every American. Television quickly came to replace radio and newspapers as a major source of public information about politics. Providing coverage of major political events and an alternative venue for campaign ads, television became an integral part of the political process during the 1950s and 1960s. Perhaps the most significant contribution to political campaigning was the invention of the short spot during the presidential campaign of 1952. These ads appeared like product ads during commercial breaks. Not only was this method revolutionary for political campaigning, but many credit Eisenhower's ability to craft a charming persona as the reason for his eventual electoral success. While television gained popularity among the American public, televised debates began to have an increasing effect on election results. The most famed example of how television can change elections was the Nixon-Kennedy debates. On the morning of the debate, John F. Kennedy was a relatively unknown Irish Catholic senator from Massachusetts. However, by the end of the debate, Kennedy quickly became a household name. On screen, his opponent, Richard Nixon, looked pale, weak, sickly, and underweight from a recent hospitalization, while Kennedy appeared calm and confident. Radio listeners were quick to name Nixon as the debate's victor, but as history tells, it was a poised Kennedy who went on to clinch the victory in the November election. The use of television for campaigning was further enhanced by the creation of the attack ad. One of the first television attack ads was known as Daisy Girl and used by Lyndon Johnson against Barry Goldwater in the 1964 election. The ad showed a young girl innocently picking petals from a daisy while a man's voice counted down to 0 and then cut to an image of a nuclear explosion. The Johnson campaign's shocking ad was very effective in swaying voters away from Goldwater's aggressive approach to fighting the Cold War. Television has revolutionized the way political campaigns are organized and executed, but it has come at a cost. During the 1992 election, Bill Clinton, George Bush, and the National Party spent over $120 million for production and airing of television spots. In recent years, campaigns have turned to social media outlets like Facebook and Twitter and increasingly towards big data. But television remains an effective way to reach the American public.
Part 3. The Obama Campaign. The new environment of the internet calls for elaboration, for expansiveness.
The 2008 Obama campaign saw an unprecedented use of data. It was the biggest data mining and processing operation ever created. The campaign built upon existing VAN infrastructure and expanded it. The Voter Activation Network, or the VAN, existed as a way to store hard IDs, voters that had been contacted and identified as either supporters or not. Even with the campaign's unprecedented volunteer network, reaching every voter would have been impossible. The campaign was able to create an algorithm that took those hard IDs and found voters who were similar and would likely vote in the same way. This way, if 10% of voter files had hard IDs, the algorithm could predict the preferences of the other 90%. These algorithms allowed the campaign to successfully predict voter tendencies. The campaign also developed an algorithm that would categorize shifters. These were people that tended towards Obama one month and McCain the next. The algorithm developed predicted which way these voters would shift and which ones were worth pursuing. The undecided voters were no longer one lump group to be pursued fruitlessly. They were instead a strategically targeted group that was worth pursuing. These new algorithms revolutionized campaigning. Obama's victory proved the efficacy and importance of these data networks. Other campaigns have been eager to replicate the 2008 success of the Obama network. The massive head start for Democrats is clear, but Republicans have struggled to keep up. 2008 was only the beginning of big data in politics.
Part 4. The 2016 presidential election. The revolutionaries are taking a politics distended by television's long reach and restoring it to human scale, even delivering, at times, a perfectly disarming touch of intimacy.
The influence of big data in campaigning can only be expected to increase in the wake of the 2016 election. If social data secured Obama's 2008 campaign and his 2012 campaign proved the power of big data, then a fusion of the two will define the race in 2016. Big data collected from online interactions, social media, and mobile geolocation, when compiled and used effectively, has allowed campaigns to reduce their efforts to an individual level. Candidates can now allocate resources more effectively and target voters so specifically that they can choose to mobilize one person, but not their neighbor. They know everything about you. Whether you're a gun owner, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, whether you use public transportation to get to work, where you spend your vacations. What these campaigns are doing is, essentially, using big data for targeted advertising, and it does not come cheap. Across all forms of media, candidates spent $6 billion on ads in the 2012 election, according to the Center for Responsive Politics. Compared with the $2.6 billion price tag of 2008's campaign ads and the $1.7 billion spent in 2004, it is clear that this trend is gaining speed and should be expected to rise exponentially in 2016. Contrary to what many believe, and despite advancements in technology, broadcast television remains the best means of reaching the largest audience. While online media has traditionally been favorable due to the ease of targeting specific users, targeting is swiftly becoming available for television as well. Thanks to continuous innovation, television will continue to be the most efficient way to reach middle America. While candidates like Bernie Sanders have cornered the market on social media, candidates like Marco Rubio continue to organize and appeal to the public through television.
We questioned some Fordham students to see how much they know about data mining and the government. Which method of traditional campaigning is most effective? A. TV ads, B. mailers, or C. in-person canvassing?
I would think that it would be TV ads because I feel like they get the most amount of views and publicity for your candidate. I feel like with mail, you would just throw it out, be like, oh, this is junk mail, I'm not interested in this candidate, throw it out. And with TV ads, if you're watching like a show or a movie on TV or something, like you're forced to see it. And then I just feel like with the personal candidating that, while effective, I just feel like the TV ads would just get more viewership.
Close, the answer is actually C, in-person canvassing. Do you feel social media is a benefit or detriment to a political campaign?
I would say that it would be a benefit to the campaign. I do think that in this day and age, social media is so important and is an eloquent usage of media for all sources to get out to like the younger groups of people. Because let's be honest, most people these days, we use social media to pick up these little tidbits of information, and I guess for some campaigns that's important because it's less about what you're getting out there and it's more about who you're getting to. So in my opinion, I do think that social media is extremely important, even if you're not getting your true message across. And in some ways that can backlash on your own campaign if you say something stupid, but you stir up a lot of knowledge and you stir up a lot of hype and things like that. That's what's, in my opinion, important for a campaign.
Thanks for the insight, Alex. The 2008 Obama campaign used metadata to target which of the following groups? A. ASPCA donors, B. Pornhub users, or C. QVC subscribers?
Personally, I just want to say Pornhub because I find that really funny. I'm gonna go with Pornhub.
Correct, we have a winner. Congrats, Andrew. Electoral politics has quietly entered the 21st century by undoing its greatest excesses of the late 20th. The campaign world's most sophisticated new thinking about who votes and why, informed by intuitive understanding of the political brain, has naturally turned attention to the individual as the fundamental unit of our politics.